Oh, welcome into another episode of Hockey Royalty Live, the official podcast of hockeyroyalty.com. Tonight is episode 213. Who are these guys? Because we haven't been on the microphone for quite a bit. Who are the Kings right now in this part of the season? Let's get in the chat. Like and subscribe. You know what to do. Let's go. We are back, and I appreciate you guys for holding on. I know us here at Hockey Royalty, it's been a little bit of a grind. Russ moving to Arizona, Joe's coaching hockey. We got the holidays, we got people out sick, all this kind of stuff like that. But you know what? We're all back now. We're ready to go. I think we're feeling good. I think we want to talk about some Kings hockey. We're going to talk a little bit about the Olympic rosters coming out, our feelings, maybe some snubs there. Maybe are the Kings buyers or sellers at the deadline? We don't know. And you guys probably don't know, but we're going to talk about it anyways. Joe, Russell, how are we doing?
Yeah, man, it's I missed you guys. Hopefully everybody's holidays went well. Mine had a blast hanging out with the family, Christmas, New Year's Eve. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I am just very excited to be talking about Kings hockey. I mean, what else could you get more excited for than talking about some LA Kings hockey, right? Like, I get so pumped up thinking about this team. But sarcasm aside, I missed my guys. So, Joe, how you doing, buddy?
Good to be back. Good to be back. Like you said, it's been a busy, few weeks for a lot of different reasons, but glad to be back. I mean, I was thinking today because it's tough this part of the season to stay up and watch these games live for me. But here we are, right about what would normally be a puck drop time for a home game at Crypt, and I'm like, there's no way this will be less entertaining than watching a Kings game. So how bad could it be? Right? So here we are. Glad to be back. Glad to see some people in the chat ready to rock. Randon, how are you?
Good. I mean, all it took was Macklin Celebrini, a generational superstar, to go to San Jose to get everybody else in the league realizing that the 7:30 Pacific starts are BS. And you got so many other, man, I want to watch this kid Celebrini, but man, it is so late. Like, it is brutal. So hopefully Celebrini gets the 7 p.m. start back on the docket for all these West Coast teams, because we like to be on at 7 o'clock. But right now, we're doing a little late night special, getting back to talking about your LA Kings. And so, over the last couple of weeks, we've been talking about it kind of in our group chat, and this team is just, it's unquantifiable, like what we are. And we're out of the playoffs. We're 1 point away from first place. We're back into the wild card. Things are going so far. Is it the LA Kings? Is it the Pacific Division? Is it a combination of both? Like, what is going on in out west?
Yeah, it's hard. Unquantifiable is the best word I've heard used this season for the NHL. I don't know if you can describe it any better. I don't know, man. Like, watching this team, I feel like we should be in last place. And then, like you said, just the other day, they were a point out of first place. So I try to follow as much hockey around the league as I can. And I haven't as much this season, but even then, like, when I see that going on and I look at like what Vegas has been going through, I mean, the Ducks just lost their 8th straight game tonight. Even Edmonton, who kind of started slow like they always do and now are starting to pick it back up. They might be kind of the one team in the Pacific Division who's maybe on track to kind of keep things rolling. But after that, it's like all the other Pacific Division teams are kind of just like in this like mushy kind of middle where you have teams that are kind of doing their own thing and then teams that are kind of just floundering. I don't know. Like, it's just kind of what the Kings have been throughout the season, really. I mean, it's really hard to figure out what the Kings are and what the rest of the NHL is right now, just because of how much parity there is across the league. For me, as trying to analyze anything, it's just very hard to do at the moment.
Yeah, it's been league-wide. It's been pretty crazy. When you look at the Eastern Conference, is there anybody under 500 in the East right now? And meanwhile, you look in the West, and it's a disaster. I don't know that anybody in the Pacific has a positive goal differential when we're looking at it coming into tonight. as you said, Russ, only Edmonton seems to kind of have their screws tightened up at least right now. It is the Pacific Division in particular is a mess, and that's certainly helped the Kings, who have been anywhere from bad to mid throughout the season, but yet here we are in a playoff spot. And I don't know. I just think the rest of the group around them, they should probably be okay in terms of making playoffs, but it's who knows. Randon, you kind of asked what are their Kings or what are the Kings, and as I was watching the Sharks game, getting caught up on it today, I was like, this almost feels like the same Kings we've seen over the past few years, just a little bit slower and a little bit worse. But like at the end of the day, it's the same kind of thing. We're going to be low scoring. They're going to try to concentrate on defense. They're going to be in some games. Their floor will be high enough, but there's just nothing here to get excited about in terms of like a playoff run. So, because there was a time where we were looking at this team and it was like this, they're like outside the top 10, outside the top 15 in expected goals. Like this is very un-LA Kings-like, and they've slowly kind of corrected that. They're back into the top 10 when it comes to shot share, shot quality, things like that. So like they're playing better, quote unquote, but it's an incredible lack of substance to it. So it just feels like they're kind of where they've been the last couple of years, just a little worse, which is not anything to get excited about, but it's good enough in the Pacific to be in the playoff hunt. So I don't know, Randon.
I think you got a little bit more creativity this year with Kuzmenko. I mean, you saw that toward the end of last year, and he's been, dog water to start the season, but now he's really caught back on. He had a phenomenal game, great goal, bringing the puck to the net, circling around.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of catching his, and I think the team just feels a little bit more gritty, but I guess we've used that adjective to describe previous Kings teams. But getting some points here with all the injuries and the sicknesses and IRs and all this kind of stuff like that, the team still gets points here and there, but it just looks so bad. And then you look at the standings and you're like, man, we're really not that far off. And like you said, Joe, nobody in the Pacific Division has a positive goal differential. Like it's just the whole division is horrible. The team that was in first place for most of the season is out of the playoff spot in the Ducks. Like it just really makes no sense what's going on here. And like nobody scares me. Like no team in the Pacific scares me. Like to play as a Kings, yes, but like as a contender nationally, it doesn't scare me at all. Or it shouldn't scare the league is what I maybe should say. Like Minnesota and Dallas and Colorado aren't scared of anybody in the Pacific right now. Like just nobody's playing at full tilt. There's cylinders misfiring and left and right, and it's just weird to watch hockey and feel like this team has any sort of chance to make it past the first round. But there you are in the playoff spot, and it's just a weird feeling.
I mean, McDavid and Draisaitl are always going to scare me, but like I agree with you to an extent, Brandon. Like I mean, you look at the Pacific Division and the way that some of these teams playing, it's just really hard to figure out like who's the cream of the crop there. I mean, but like the Central Division, like all three of those teams, like you mentioned, Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota, even though Dallas is kind of floundering a little bit right now themselves, they seem like to be the top teams, especially with Minnesota. I mean, Quinn Hughes, those two games that he played against the Kings, it's like they're such a totally different team. It's unreal what that player does. With what one individual player can do to a team like Quinn Hughes, it's crazy. But yeah, like I feel like this is like one of the few years where, and I'm like a big analytics guy. I feel like all of us are here, or like Joe, you, Randon, like we love like the analytics and whatnot. But like this feels like one of the years where the analytics don't match the eye test from everything I've watched, at least specifically for the Kings, because like I mean, Joe said, like they're top 10 now in expected goal share. They're getting up there in shot share, course share, like all that. And you watch these games, you're thinking like, okay, how is that possible? It feels like they're just being outrun, outskated, outshot every night, outchanced. But for whatever reason, like they're top 10. And like Like Dom Lucian shared his like standings update tonight, and he's great with his formulas, and he had the Kings like right there, like safe bet to make the playoffs. I'm like, okay, like I don't see it, but I mean they're what, like a point out of being 6 points out from being 7th in the Pacific and a point out from a playoff spot right now. So it's like it's tough. Like where's the upside? It's just I know there's a floor. I can see a floor to this team, but I think the upside is where we're at right now, which is just squeaking into a playoff spot. And we've seen what happens the last few years when that happens.
That's why I say it just feels like now we're getting into, as we got into January, it's starting to feel like, okay, this is last year all over again. This is the year before all over again in terms of it's the same old story. They're going to struggle to score. They defend well, yada, yada, yada. See you out of the first round. Like it's I don't know. I mean, they'd have to get the cakiest matchup in order to win a round as we sit here on January 8th. And I don't even know who that is. You know, it's none of the 4 teams in the Central. I still don't give them any puncher's chance against Edmonton.
We'd be playing Colorado as we speak.
Yeah, well, how's that going to go? And
a waste of 8 days.
Or 8 days.
And, you know, I don't give them a shot against Edmonton, and against if Vegas is healthy, I don't think they beat Vegas either. But at the same time, you know, we're going to end up talking about like the trade deadline here, which is what, 2 months away, a little less than that at this point. It's right around the corner, and we're probably going to be talking about the Kings being buyers. So here we are, like, despite having virtually no ceiling, like this is what it is. And it's in part, it's almost like you would almost, not as a fan, I guess, like as a fan, you want your team to win, you want your team to make playoffs, but like this would almost be better off. It's like, what can we just be bad? Can we actually be bad and like miss playoffs? But again, we've talked about how the Kings are like, they're just in that like old Minnesota Wild, just in that middle, never good enough, never bad enough. You're just kind of there, never a threat, but you know, you get that playoff first round. If you're lucky, maybe you see the second round, but it's just dull. I don't know. It's very difficult to talk about or analyze, Russ.
You look at, well, the Steelers never rebuilt, but I feel like the Kings are like the Steelers a little bit. It's like, yeah, they're there in the playoffs. They have a good history in their organization. They won a Stanley Cup or a Lombardi Trophy over a decade ago, but nobody's dropping money on the Steelers this weekend. Nobody's dropping money on the Steelers to win the Lombardi. And it's like, yeah, they're there. And Mike Tomlin has been in the playoffs every year that he's coached, but he hasn't won a Super Bowl since what, like 12 or 14 or, you know, whatever. So I don't know. It's tough. I think that there's a lot of positives with this team in individual standpoints. You know, our boy Brent Clark, Darcy Kemper got a nod for Team Canada. I feel like a lot of these players are kind of progressing in the ways that we want them to. I don't know. It's just wounds, man. It's just wounds are tough to heal when we've been repeatedly the whipping boy for the team up north.
Yeah, whipping boy is a good word. I mean, even that was last night. It's just, oh, look, another Pacific Division team got their superstar, and look what he can do to the Kings. And here we are watching all the players that we've had just kind of not live up to the hype. I mean, and I think a little bit had to do with kind of like over the summer, probably not a little bit, a lot of it, thinking about like, I mean, we kind of all saw this coming. Like, that's the thing, is there's nothing been surprising to this season. I feel like maybe the surprises have been like what we haven't seen from few players. Like, we all expected Brent Clark to be this like superstar level player, and he's kind of proving us right. He's playing to that level. I mean, we all expected Cody Ceci and Brian Dumoulin to kind of struggle defensively and not really be able to provide offense to the team overall, and that's kind of sort of what's going on. I think the thing that's what's troubling too is all the negatives. I mean, Drew Doughty of late has really played poorly. But Quentin Byfield's kind of really played poorly. And Adrian Kempe hasn't really lived up to the $11 million salary that he's signed, in my opinion. So I think that's what's kind of hit us in a sense. I mean, there's definitely some highlights, some other players, like you said, of late, Kuzmenko and Fiala. That's been real fun. I think Joe had actually mentioned that as a line when they first got together, like, let's put all our skill guys together and see what happens. And that's been a lot of fun. And Darcy Kemper has kind of carried the load a little bit to kind of carry these teams, the Kings, to stealing some points. But besides that, we all expected this to happen.
Yeah.
It's really tough to say to the franchise or say to the fans, hey, we were in the playoffs last year, let's retool. Hey, we were in the playoffs last year, let's refigure this out. It's a tough sell, especially from an organizational standpoint, because of the money lost, right? The people coming through the gates. There's more money in playoff games, all that kind of stuff like that. But this team repeatedly pushes in the chips, and they're going to have to do that again in February. They're going to have to burn future assets in February to compete, even for a playoff spot, let alone a first round win. And all three of us are like, to be honest, I'm terrified at who they'll bring in, what the cost will be, just to remain somewhat relevant in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, Randon, like, and I don't know if this is what you meant, but like they didn't have to rebuild. Like, they didn't have to do any sort of retool after missing the playoffs last year. You know, they didn't have to. They just had to not do what they did. Like, do anything but what Ken Holland did this offseason probably would have been better. But that's not what happened. So here we sit, and I couldn't agree more that as a Kings fan, yeah, like, you should be terrified at what Ken Holland might do come trade deadline time, because, you know, this team is not like a deadline piece away from being a contender. So, you know, I understand if you want to like nibble on the fringes and get some reinforcements in to kind of just bolster the roster a little bit, a la Kuzmenko last year, frankly. That's well done if they can do something like that at low cost, because otherwise, if you're looking to acquire an impact player, like, they don't have much in terms of prospect capital, right? We've talked about this before. Other than the goalies in Green Tree, there's not a ton there right now that's probably going to net you some sort of, you know, impact piece. You know, so you don't want to be trading the little that you have for something that in a year where you're not going anywhere. So it's a very weird spot, and it's tough as like a fan, because you always want to see them improve. But what does that even mean right now? I don't even know what that means or what that looks like as we look at the rest of the season, you know, and into the deadline and into playoffs. So, you know, I don't know if you want to get into it, Randon, right now in terms of the deadline, but like, yeah, I'm with you in that I'm pretty nervous about what that looks like.
I think this team is worse off than we even thought from a contending standpoint. Like, Byfield, I'm on the verge of using the B word for the second, a bust for the second overall pick. Like, you're looking at what Celebrini's done. And granted, he was first overall. You're looking at Tim Stützle and a lot of these upper picks, Brent Seneca and all these guys that are just, they're getting it. And you know, I was on the Kempe train. I know it took him till later in his career to turn it around and do those types of things. But for the second overall pick, like, you really wanted him to solidify him as a first line center. And like, I have zero confidence and barely any confidence that he's a second line center in the National Hockey League. So it's that. And then you got Turcotte, who hasn't really become anything. You trade away Velarde, who is doing well on Winnipeg, even though their team is horrible. And like, Brent Clark is the only top 10 pick in the last decade that has done anything for this team. And even him he's not a team carrier at this point, because they won't let him be. But it's just uninspiring. And I don't want this to be a doom and gloom podcast. This is just facts for this team at this point.
Yeah.
It's just facts at this point because, like, we talked about it coming into the season, what the realistic outcome is, and that's what we are right now. We also said this team could play a lot better if this, and this happens. What is that? LaFerriere takes the next jump. Hasn't done that. Byfield to take the next jump and be a point per game player. Hasn't done that. You have Turcotte being a night in and night out, maybe 40-point guy. Hasn't done that. He's getting more time now, and that Kuzmenko, Turcotte, Fiala line has looked good, but we're not talking about from a fully team standpoint. If Darcy Kemper isn't on this team, we're talking about us getting Gavin McKenna, in my opinion. And so it's really tough for me to be optimistic, and I mean, frankly, I wanted my name on this. If we're watching live, to be Retool Randon. That's what I wanted it to be tonight, because it's tough to say this, but yeah, let's trade away Kopitar. Let's get him out of here. Let's trade away these guys and retool and kind of this rebuild or retool or whatever you want to call it did not work, in my opinion.
I mean,
not because of the players that we chose to draft, but the execution of getting to that next step, right? Everybody says it's getting to the playoffs is one tier, competing in the playoffs is the next tier, and winning the Stanley Cup is the third. And we haven't got past tier one yet.
Yeah, and I think if you look, Brandon, you just rattle, like QB is the biggest disappointment. That's just that can't miss. And so far, in terms of number one NHL center, that's missed. Now, he's young. I'm not calling him a bust quite yet. I know that we're still very early days, but the conversation with Stützle, that's not even a conversation, and that's not even close. So, like, yeah, he's not there right now, and that's really disappointing. But, and I tweeted this out a few days back. I don't remember when. I just was like, why does it always seem the guys that everybody is praising are these depth guys who are important players? Don't get me wrong, like Corey Perry, Joel Armia, Warren Fogle last year. And meanwhile, not taking that step, not having the career years are Quentin Byfield. Turcotte's had other reasons with his health. You look at Kuzmenko's inconsistencies, Kevin Fiala's inconsistencies. I agree, Randon. Adrian Kempe's had an extremely disappointing season this year. Brant Clark, they just refused, or he's like forcing Hiller's hand at this point, finally. Jordan Spence was more or less run out. Like, why is it that the top end, the high-end skill guys, the high-end guys that can actually change the game, can actually impact the style of play, the way they play, the results on the ice, they can't ever consistently be just given the reins, if you will? We're just continually just praising and heaping up, when rightfully so, they're playing well. Like what Corey Perry's done has been great. What Joel Armia has been great. Warren Fogle with the career year last year, that's great. None of that's going to get you anywhere if you don't have your stars. And the Kings are absent stars right now. And yeah, so that's, so long-winded way to say, like, the whole QB thing, I don't know, man. Like, where would QB be in a different organization right now? Is that a fair question? Like, how much of this is on the organization coaching versus the player at this point? Because it seems to be we've had this organizational philosophy that has propped up bottom six depth players, seen some of them rise with good shooting percentages and things like that. You've seen defensemen, they've turned defensemen who were not great into, Andres Eglin played 82 games. Gavrikov came over here as, I think, for some people did think he was better than certainly what we thought, but he certainly has evolved into a dynamite defensive defenseman, which I don't know that we could have said that beforehand. And it's like, what have we, like, yet we're just stifling talent. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's frustrating, and I think it limits the ceiling, Randon. Now, you've got a team sitting in a playoff spot. They're not retooling. They're not selling. They're not rebuilding. They're not going to fire the coach. Like, none of that's going to happen. And I'm not even suggesting that they should, because they're sitting in a playoff spot. Like, how do you sell that, to the fans? It's a pretty, like, the worst spot to be. Like, right? If go back 10 years ago and ask the Minnesota Wild if it was fun. They were playing boring hockey. They were never a threat. They were never getting high picks. They were always in playoffs, always losing.
The murky middle.
This is like as bad as it gets to be. That's what sucks.
Because you have nothing to look forward to, right? Like, I mean, there's what do we have to look forward to 2, 3 years, 4 years from now? I mean, defense is all signed. Maybe Brian Clark's evolution. But besides that, you have the rest of the D-core pretty much signed for the next few years. Byfield's, we can talk about like whatever his ceiling was, but they talked about him being a 23-year-old, and that's where he's going to hit his peak. He's 23 right now. He's got 24 points in 41 games. I mean, we were a few games ago. He had a 10 games pointless streak. That's not good. That's not good enough. That's not acceptable. I mean, and I get it. Like, I see fans, like, and I put out the thing, like, comparing Stützle, and I did my apologies to Sens fans with everything, trying to prop up Quentin Byfield and whatnot, and it said, no, they got it wrong. We got it wrong. It's clear as day. And I heard fans come back at me and say, well, maybe it's just the Kings. And I get it. Like, I do put some credence in that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, it's got to be the player, too. And there's been times when I watched Quentin Byfield play. He's just not that assertive player we've seen him be on a consistent basis maybe at times. He just continues to play outside, continues to kind of pass off scoring opportunities for maybe to find an open person who doesn't happen to be there. And defensively, he's kind of just struggling a little bit, in my opinion. I know he's playing a lot. He's getting the deployment of like a top line center, but he's not producing like one. Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, for the Kings, that's okay in their book, which is just totally disappointing, because that's where you had that philosophy of putting in like an Alex Ferrier as your top line or as a centerman now, because he plays so well defensively, not because of his production there, but because he can play that defensive mindset. That's why Yoel Armia is producing the way he is, or getting the opportunity that he is, because he can play that defensive mindset type of game. And it's tough as a Kings fan to see all these players and see this. I mean, even this conversation become like prevalent, which I totally get, about the Kings being this kind of kill of fun and killjoy of fun and production and offense. And it totally makes sense, because you get rid of those players like a Jordan Spence or a Sean Dursey or anybody like that can produce offense, and players that come here don't thrive. It's just, it sucks. It sucks as a Kings fan, because like you said, Joe, and just kind of tie things up. Like, I mean, there's just no light at the end of the tunnel right now. There's just no, I mean, as a struggling team, it would be fun, because you think about like, oh, like, what could we do with a top 5 pick? There could be amazing things. Look what's happened. Look what it's done for the New York Islanders. Look what it's done for the San Jose Sharks. Look what it's done for the Anaheim Ducks. Like, all these teams who've had top. I mean, even Montreal. Look what it's done for Montreal. The Kings, what, they're going to draft another 20th overall pick that can maybe figure things out. I mean, we don't know what Liam Greentree is going to do. Not to put a lot of stock in the World Juniors, but he didn't even really play. We don't know what Henry Bruchevit's going to do. I mean, he's still a young player, so it's hard to evaluate him. But even then, it's just hard to figure out where the top end or where the fun is and the ceiling is for this team now and in the future.
Well, and figure, Russ, the players, Greentree and the young players you just mentioned, like, rewind not that long ago to like Hockey Royalty's infancy. That's where that's where we were, right? Like, this team that was in transition, starting to become exciting. All these young players, right? Byfield was drafted, Clark.
Off of the team prospect charts.
You know what I mean? You had the cross. So that's the Kings were kind of there. Yet they almost did this like rebuild that was perfect, where they didn't totally blow it up. You still had your Kopitar, you still had Brown, you still had Doughty, obviously, quick for a little bit there toward the end. And yet they were able to still stockpile such an impressive crop of a farm system that it was starting to become, this is exciting now, right? This is exciting. And they had this evidently organizational philosophy, because this stems now multiple coaches and multiple GMs, where this is a style, this is how we want to play, that's just totally not allowed them to take the next step, right? We've talked about it, they've done a decent job. There's some exciting forwards and throughout this whole process here, but totally just kept year after year after year after year after year shooting themselves in the foot on the back end, and they still haven't figured that out. Like, they can't understand, like, man, how does this team not score? How is it? Well, somehow the Kings, and like at some point you look to Luke Robitaille, like you have to look above the GM, because this has now spanned multiple GMs.
He's the consistent piece, right? I mean, he's
right. Luke Robitaille, this is what he wants. You have to. I mean, that's right. Who else is it? Right.
Exactly.
You can't wear Mark Bergevin anymore. He's gone. So like, this is an organizational thing. As I've said, like Ken Holland, like he put the official final nails in the coffin, but like it predates him. So yeah, I mean, and then Brandon, I know you said you want this to be doom and gloom, and we've kind of gone down that road. So we bring us back here, but like, that's just kind of, yes, what the direction was, Brandon, and this is where we went.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of what it is. I mean, like you said, we rebuilt in the infancy of this podcast. We were talking about our prospect rankings and all these draft picks and coming up, and then you're like, oh, they go out and get Phil Deneau. Okay, that makes sense. They need a 2 or 3C. Why this team is building. He'll be here for 5 years, and that makes sense. He'll eventually be the 3C, and Kopitar will move to the 2C. We'll have Alex Turcotte, and then it'll be like, oh no, they drafted even Quentin Byfield. Like, okay, well, Turcotte will be the 2C, and Kopitar will ride off into the sunset as the 3C, and Deneau will be the 4C. And then you're like, that's a nice move. They traded for Victor Arvidsson. Okay. I mean, I really like Brock Faber, but Kevin Fiala is an excellent player and he's super young. And you start seeing these pieces come together, and then they make that first playoff run, like Jacob 7537 says, and we really thought, like, man, this could be a dynasty. Like, after the first playoff run, when nobody expected it, that's what you want. You want a team that nobody expects to make the playoffs. That's kind of where the Sharks are right now. They're like, hey, nobody expected them to be in the playoff hunt. Now they're in the playoff hunt. And then, like, okay, next year we really have a chance. We make the right moves, we really have a chance. And that's kind of how it felt with the Kings. And it just fell off. Like, it just really fell off with the moves that we came in and brought. And I don't know. I don't want to get into all that. It's tough but I think when you look back in this decade of Kings hockey, the lack of intelligent moves to bring home the rebuild is what set the Kings back, and will ultimately probably set the Kings into another rebuild, because of the fact that they didn't make the right moves to get them out of tier 1 into tier 2 into that next part of the playoffs.
Yeah, I had more fun watching the Kings in the 2000s than I have in the 2020s. I'll tell you that. I mean, there was some fun teams, and I agree. I don't know who made the comment, but that first playoff run, it was fun. I mean, it was probably the best chance that the Kings had beating the Oilers out of all 4 chances, I feel like. And I don't know if maybe it's because all the young players were just playing free. I mean, you had Sean Dursey on the team, you had Velarde on the team. I mean, and a lot of people can nitpick the PL Dubois trade. I still would think about doing it again, to be honest with you. I mean, look what the Kings are at now. They're searching for a centerman, is what it is. So, I mean, Sean Dursey, that's the one that was still always on me, and I get it. He was part of that trade, so that's where I get a little upset. But I mean, yeah, it's just this past offseason was the stake in my heart. I mean, it was just like I just would have loved to see what this team would have been if they just would have stand pat. If they just would have said, okay, we're just going to play the same 3 right shot defensemen that we had last season. We're going to play the same 3, maybe sign like a filler, or even play Jacob Moverara on the left side and just go from there and have another filler left shot defenseman. And then maybe even keep Kuzmenko. And then that way you keep all your salary untied for the next few years. You have some pieces to kind of keep.
Yeah.
But now you're tied up in roster spots and with salaries that not a lot of teams are going to want if you want to get rid of. And that's the disappointing part.
If the team does decide to rebuild, they're going to have to shed picks before they can get picks back, right? Because they're going to have to shed stuff to get Cody Cece and Edmondson out of there. Whew. All right, that was a nice.
Bring us somewhere.
That was a nice little venting session here, and sometimes I have to vent too because with other things in my life. Because DraftKings, when I'm not making my money and I'm making the wrong parlays, I have to vent to people as well. But you want to get on the best betting app in the game. The holidays are heating up with Pick 6 at DraftKings. Newest fantasy pick'em game. Make your NBA picks for a shot at big cash prizes for this holiday season. Here's how it works. Either choose more or less on 2 or more player stats. That's points, rebounds, assists, and more. The more accurate your picks, the bigger your payout, and it's kind of the upside you can only find on Pick 6. Not any of those other pick'em sites. It's only available in most states, including Texas, California, and Georgia. Download DraftKings Pick 6 app now. Use code THPN. New DraftKings customers can bet just $5 and get 50 in Pick 6 credits with code THPN. Ride the upside. The partnership is DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. In Connecticut, must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus points awarded is non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire within 14 days. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Limited time offer.
And Brandon, I know I just told you, asked you to get us in a different direction, but like tomorrow, the Kings play the Winnipeg Jets, who are dead last in the NHL and just blew a 3-1 lead to Edmonton today to lose their 11th straight game. And so they're going to host the Kings tomorrow, and it's going to be so Kings to beat the Minnesota Wild 2 games in a row, only to lose to San Jose at home, and then potentially now Winnipeg who is going to be second of a back-to-back at home in Winnipeg. I mean, and the Kings that's the first of a back-to-back for them because they've got Edmonton the second night. So, just I don't know. 11 in a row Winnipeg has lost. 11 in a row.
Joe, we're not gonna lose tomorrow. We're not gonna lose because when we win, we're gonna be tied for first place.
Okay,
we're only 2 points out, and therefore then we can play another team that will beat us, but in a different fashion. I'm looking forward to, and this brings smile to my heart, is the Olympics. Olympic rosters are out. We're excited, and in this episode of Coast to Coast, we are talking about the Olympic hockey roster, some snubs. How stoked are we? Who do we think we might win? I'm excited for these teams here. I think we're going to break down all of them. We'll start with Team Denmark, and we'll go. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about the main. We're going to talk about the main teams here, and kind of break down kind of how we feel this matchup should be. Everybody loved the Four Nations. The Rock'em Sock'em robots and in both those games coming down to the last minute. I think that both teams made some tweaks. We'll talk about how we like the tweaks. But before we get into those rosters, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other teams here in a brief fashion. The first team in the Big Four is Finland. You have 6K making it. You have Lankinen from the Canucks, UC Saros are the goalies. Olli Mata, Mikko Lehtinen, Henry Jokikaru, Esa Lindell, Matson Palo. You have Heiskanen, Restalainen, and Mikkola. And then you have plenty of forwards: Lindell, Aho, Hintz, Luosterainen, Tolvanen, Armia for your LA Kings. Eric Haula. You have Lehkonen, Mikael Granlund, Capo Caco, and many more, with headlined by Mikko Rantanen. You have one big forward missing from the Florida Panthers, which really kind of was the lockdown for this team last year in the Four Nations, and they're really going to miss Barkov at the top of their lineup there. But Finland always finds a way to play team hockey. What do you guys think of that lineup, and where do you kind of place them amongst the top four?
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because I would have loved to see Barkov play in the Olympics. I mean, especially with playing with Rantanen, I think that would have been an outstanding line to kind of watch. I mean, you can put anybody on that other side, and I'm sure. I mean, even down the middle, I'm just looking at them. I mean, you have Barkov, Lundell, Aho. I mean, Lehkonen. Like, there's just names on names right there in the forward core. Defensively, I mean, there's obviously Miro Heiskanen's going to be up there. Esa Lundell, they play together, so maybe there's a little bit of familiarity there. But besides that, it's kind of up and down. And then goalies, I mean, it's just all a crapshoot, I feel like, with these Olympic games with the goalies. It's kind of whoever's hot at the moment. But yeah, I think I'd probably place them in the fourth of the four. Big four. I mean, just to kind of throw them out there real quick before we get to the other three, the one country I'm sure we're probably not going to dive too much into that I'm curious to watch is Switzerland. They always seem to play pretty well in these world tournaments, and especially at the World Championships. All the big guys like go and play in those World Championships together. I think Niederreiter, Fiala, Hischier, and Roman Josi all played in the last few. So they have some familiarity there, and they've played pretty well. So not a lot of big names on that team, but I'm curious to watch Switzerland. But I'd still put Finland above him, but at least in the fourth of the big four.
Yeah, I agree with everything Russ just said. It's just tough because the roster's not bad for Finland. It's just when you take Barkov out, that's just such a big blow to them. That's a team that can't afford to lose that. That said, like, is anybody here going to be shocked if they're playing for a medal in some fashion? Like, this is a team that is never an easy out in any tournament. Whether it's World Juniors, Olympics, whatever it is, these guys find a way to be a very difficult out. So I fully expect that, even if, even no Barkov, I think this team is going to be a tough out. So it's just a tough loss because he's such a great player, and it's unfortunate that he's not getting this opportunity.
Your LA Kings are sending one more to another team of the Nordic countries. Sweden is getting Adrian Kempe. Amongst other players here. Both Wild goalies are going, and Jasper Wallstedt and Gustafsson. You have Jacob Markstrom from the Devils. A very strong and stalwart defensive core with Rasmus Andersson, Philip Broberg, Brodin, Rasmus Dahlin, Ekman Larsson, Gustav Forsling, Victor Hedman, and Erik Karlsson. And then a lot of good forwards, especially with the young and up-and-coming Leo Carlsson to kind of head down the middle there for Team Sweden. They always have that extra juice and are a long shot to make a gold medal, but you always find that they can piece, if they can piece it together and figure it out, they're as deadly as anybody.
Yeah, I mean, they're I think the one team at the Four Nations that didn't lose in regulation but didn't make to the final. I mean, Canada might not have either, but yeah, I mean, they were right there. I think I said at the time of the Four Nations, they probably had one of the best or one of the best defensive cores among the big four, and it kind of paid off. Erik Karlsson seemed to find another gear playing in that tournament, so I wouldn't be surprised if he finds another one. I'm not sure. Is Victor Hedman still hurt? Or
he's hurt right now, but I think he'll be back.
He'll be back. Okay, yeah, obviously a big piece, but yeah, like Brandon said, a lot of new young faces with Leo Carlsson obviously there. It'll be, and then Gabriel Landeskog obviously wasn't playing last year, so he'll be there this year. Although he got hurt recently
too. Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I still really like this team. Actually, I might put them second, to be honest with you, among the big four. So I don't know if that's a hot take or not.
I don't think it's a hot take. These guys are really freaking good. I mean, top to bottom, and if they can get like somewhere of the Elias Pettersson that people think he is, we think he is, at least I think he can be, is shown at some point. Like, these guys can. This is a stacked group up front. This is a great decor. The goaltending has been good this season, with the exception of Markstrom. But the Minnesota Wild guys are great. So whoever they decide to play there, I guess we'll see. But this is a fun team. And I'm really close, Russ, with where I'm kind of real close between them and the United States in terms of who's like my number 2 entering the tournament. Really good team. I think there's a lot of talk, and I understand it, between like the U.S. and Canada, the 2 heavy favorites. And again, I don't totally dispute that, but like Sweden feels like they're getting a little overlooked at times. I think that's a really good team.
Going into the next team here is our biggest rival team, Canada. The stalwart in net, Jordan Binnington, having a rough season, but we knew he would be there for what he's done for them across the years. Darcy Kemper getting a good nod, and Logan Thompson. So 2 guys that the 4 nations that they excluded, they brought in the back end. You got Drew Doughty, Thomas Harley, Makar Morrissey, Colton Parayko, Travis Sanheim, Shea Theodore, and Taves. Great defensive team there. You got Makar and Taves at the top. Yeah, you can't really beat that. But the young nod to Macklin Celebrini getting there. You have a lot of your mainstays, and then you bring in Tom Wilson, which seems like he's having a good year, but it seems like a force. I think that they wanted to bring him in to match the physicality of the USA team, but there's not fighting in the Olympics, so it just kind of seems maybe just physicality on the ice. But what do you think about this team, and who are the biggest snubs from the Canadian roster?
Yeah, I think the biggest snub is probably Connor Bedard among all the players. I mean, maybe Sam Bennett, you can kind of make that argument, but when it was either going to be Tom Wilson or him, it felt like you could only have one of those players in the lineup. I don't know. I kind of really like what Canada did in certain situations. A lot of people, maybe Kings fans included, are probably questioning the Drew Doughty pick. I get it. Like, to be honest with you, like, he's the leader in the room. Like, you want to have that guy. He's not going to probably play more than 13, 14 minutes. He's going to be their Cody Ceci pretty much. He's going to go out there, kill penalties, and try to lock things down. He's not going to be out there when the game's getting down to the nitty-gritty, most likely. But yeah, I love what they did though overall, and bringing Macklin Celebrini is at the top of that list, because that would have been the biggest snub in my opinion if they left him off. Because I mean, we saw it firsthand what he did, just what he can do on the ice last night in the game against the Kings. I mean, if you can put him on a line with like McDavid, like, good luck, man. Like, there's no stopping them, and with Makar on the back end, like that's a team that's just gonna run through people. So they're at the top of my list, obviously, as the favorite to take home gold.
Let the record show, I was not the one on this podcast to compare Drew Doughty and Cody Ceci. That was Russell Morgan. Apologies on behalf of Hockey Royalty to Drew Doughty. No, this is a loaded roster. They're stacked, particularly up front. You know, I will kind of agree with Bedard being, I guess, the biggest snub, but I'll actually go the other way on the back end, because I think if there's a weak spot for Canada, I mean, I guess it's the goaltending, but it's always the goaltending, and that they just seem to play well, so who cares? You know, Matthew Schaefer, man, is really good and probably one of the better defensemen on this Canadian group. You know, even if they wanted to bring him in to be one of like the 7-8 guys, and not be a regular per se, I kind of, you know, the way they brought in Doughty when he first made the Olympics, he came in as like the number 7 or 8 D man and worked his way into like, okay, yeah, you're playing regularly now. I could have totally seen that being Matthew Schaefer on this D core. So I think that's a pretty big snub for, you know, a Canadian team that's loaded up front, you know. And I know we're nitpicking here because these are some great defensemen still, but, you know, after Taves and Makar, like, you know, obviously Morrissey's really good. I mean, Parayko's, I get it. Doughty, again, he's not having a great year. Sanheim is fine. I guess they love that he can play both sides because there's a lot of lefties here. Theodore is having a down year. He's hurt right now, but I think he's a stud. Harley's not had a good season relative to the last couple seasons. So, like, they've obviously got the game breaker in McCarr, but you could have had another one in Schaefer. So I think if there's a snub for me, it's Matthew Schaefer. But this is the best team, I think, in the tournament. I'm not going to be – I don't think Jordan Binnington's any good. Somehow he finds a way to play good in these tournaments or in big games, so we'll see if that continues here. But he's the third best goalie on this team, so it could work out in everybody else's favor that they're going to probably play Binnington. But remember too, like this is a little bit of a longer tournament, right? Four Nations was pretty short sprint of a tournament, so if Binnington does struggle in a couple of games, they'll have the time to kind of move in a different direction, I think. So we'll see how they handle the goaltending, but I don't know. It's when you look at that Canadian group up front, it's just going to be tough to beat. Tough to beat.
The best thing to happen to Canada would be if Latvia put 4 goals on them with Binnington in goal.
Yeah, seriously.
Or like France, like one of these other teams, like these teams that don't have any chance. Puts 4 goals on Binnington, and then Kemper plays the rest of the playoffs, right? But no, I think Sam Bennett is the biggest snub, and for a team that is all skill up front, and I understand why they brought Tom Wilson, but there's been no player that's had a better resume when the big games matter in the last 2 years than Sam Bennett. In the Four Nations, in the playoffs for the Panthers, there's been no player that's had a bigger resume when the games matter than Sam Bennett, and I feel like he's the biggest snub for Team Canada. And I don't think it's close.
That's fair.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. But just to kind of get back to what Joe was saying real quick before we move on to the U.S., like I don't want to sound like the Kings homer here, but Darcy Kemper has to be the starting goalie the way he's been playing. Like, it's not even to the point where it's just the Kings play of the last few seasons when we say oh, it's the Kings system, like any goalie can survive. Like the way he's been playing has been incredible, to be honest with you. It just seems like he's reading the puck so well. His reactions everything he's doing has just been on point. Like they have to be starting him.
Thompson's playing well too to his defense. Like either way, Russ, both of those guys, if you're Canadian, like both of those guys are much better than Jordan Binnington.
Binnington, absolutely. Yeah.
For your Team USA rosters.
Sorry, Randon, real quick, because going back to the whole Tom Wilson thing, is he even going to play? Like he didn't even play. We don't know where.
Not playing at all.
He could be scratched. Like he could be their 14th forward for all we know. So, I know there's a lot that's made of that, but I think there's enough kind of grit on this Canadian team with some of these players that only need Tom Wilson. It's a different style, right, of game. You mentioned the fighting, Brandon, but obviously just the physical play is going to be a little bit different than what we saw in Four Nations. So, but that said, this isn't as if Wilson didn't earn it. He's having a heck of a season, right? He's not just this one trick pony. He's out there to just run guys. He's putting up a really nice season. So, I think he earned it too. So.
On to your red, white, and blue here. Back in the goalies, you have Ottinger, Hellebuck, and Swayman. Defenders are Rowinski, Faber, Sanderson, Slavin, Hannafin, Hughes, Seth Jones, and Charlie McAvoy. And your forwards include Jake Getzel, Jack Eichel, Kyle Connor, Boldy, Vincent Trocheck, the Kachuk brothers, Tage Thompson, Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, Dylan Larkin, Keller, Brock Nelson, and J.T. Miller. What do you guys think about this roster, and where are the snubs for Team USA?
It's funny because they talked about Sweden's defense core and how I really like them. I mean, this defense core I love, to be honest with you. You guys know I've always been a Slavin guy. Huge fan of him. Zach Rowinski, too. Love that player. Jake Sanderson's probably growing into becoming, one of my favorite non-Kings players. The way I've watched – so I sat on the glass for the – shout out Johnny Utah for the tickets, but I sat on the glass – for the game against Ottawa, and the way that Jake Sanderson skates is just unreal. That guy, he skates without the puck, with the puck. It's unbelievable how good that player is. So he's good. I actually like the Seth Jones inclusion. A lot of people are kind of questioning whether it would be him or Adam Fox. I've always been kind of a Seth Jones guy, and then he kind of showed his worth in the playoffs last year. Hannafin and Faber, maybe Hannafin's maybe I guess the question mark there. McAvoy, I'm not as high on like those type of players, but like I mentioned, everybody else I love. So love the defense core. I think there's probably a lot more like galaxy brained decisions up front with some of this decision making. It seems like some of the other countries just said like, here, let's just bring our best players, maybe besides Canada with Doughty, but everybody else is like, let's just bring our best players and we'll figure it out there. Whereas the US was like, let's try to create a team here and like put players in certain situations and whatnot. So like, I'm not overly upset with the selections as maybe some other people are. Like, I get it to an extent, but like leaving Jason Robertson off is pretty like surprising in my book. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. That seems like the biggest snub of all of them. I guess it's Vincent Trocheck is what everyone's looking at. I've always been a fan of Vincent Trocheck, so it's kind of hard for me to like be negative there. But
to me,
like
JT Miller. I think Trocheck should have been on this team. I think JT Miller should have been.
So that's another one too. So I think those are the two names everyone's looking at as far as maybe whether Robertson or even Cole Caulfield should be included over those two.
Yeah, I think Robertson's the biggest snub of the tournament. I don't understand that at all. I don't get that. I think that's a mistake. It really seems like when you read some of Bill Guerin's comments, like he built this roster to try to beat Canada, to try to slow down. I think he used even the words to slow down like some of what Canada has. And it's like, boy, oh boy, these guys still don't get it. You're not slowing. You're not going to stop McDavid and McKinnon and Crosby, and you're not stopping them. To think that some of these guys still think that way. Anyways, like I agree though, Russ, on the back end. I don't have a really big issue. Like I get it. I like Adam Fox quite a bit, and I really would like him on this roster. But at the same time, when I look at the decor, it's like that's a pretty good decor still. Mm-hmm. I don't have an issue with what they did on the D. My concerns are when I look up front, when you've got Austin Matthews. I know he's been hot lately, but this has not been one of his better seasons. Jack Eichel is hurt. Is he still hurt, Russ, or is he back now? He's been battling injury. I know that much.
Yeah, he's been out of the lineup, in and out of the lineup.
Jack Hughes has just recently come back.
Kachuk is still out.
Is out. Like you've got some banged up top players.
Came back.
Yeah, you've got some banged up top players, and so it's like God forbid if any of those injuries. None of these guys seem to be anywhere near 100%. Like if they struggle to score, which is entirely possible, they could really miss Robertson and or Cole Caulfield. And to do it for the sake of some face-offs and some defensive play is, it seems like you said, a little galaxy brain to me. Because I think you've got a lot of guys that can play roles on this team and already. And I think there's guys that could have done just as well that were not picked, be it Robertson, be it Cole Caulfield. So it's a little tough for me to leave those guys off. And I think there's a lot being made of the smaller ice surface and the tighter checking and there's not as much time and space. And so I guess the thought is to just get bigger guys to clog up more space. Like, I don't know, the way I look at it is if space is limited and time and space is limited, don't you want somebody who can score with one shot that doesn't need a lot of time and space, that can create on his own, that can make something happen in a small area, right? Like Jason Robertson scores a lot of goals from that slot area. Cole Caulfield has a shot that can score from almost anywhere. Isn't that the type of stuff you're looking for if you're in these tight games, these tight check games, or these tight area games where there's not as much time and space, guys that can create and make plays and score goals without much space. That's how I look at it. And maybe I'm wrong here, but that's just how I approach it. I don't look at it, well, there's going to be not as much time and space. Let me just get some bigger guys who can check. I look at it as there's not going to be much time and space. Let me try to find some guys who don't need a lot of time and space to create and to score. That's just my philosophy, but we'll see how it plays out. I do think the U.S. roster is obviously quite good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they're going to be one of the favorites or in that conversation. But, when I look back at that Four Nations tournament, I'm like, I wasn't, I wasn't worried about, we're not checking well enough. I'm like, we could really use Tage Thompson, Jason Robertson, or Cole Caulfield right now. But they didn't. They obviously Thompson is here at least, thank God. But we'll see if it's enough. But I wonder if they'll be able to score enough.
There's only 2 players in the year of 2025, meaning the back half of last season and the first part of this season, that have more goals than Jason Robinson.
Okay, so I need to say something here, and maybe
this is 2 players.
Yeah,
like that's just makes no sense to me.
And I've seen this, Brandon, and I'm glad you brought it up. And it's obviously shows how good Robertson, has been, and particularly in scoring goals. But when did we start doing calendar year stuff? I'm going to be honest. I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
I was trying to make my point there, Joe.
I know,
and
I'm not mad at you.
And
I've seen a lot of calendar year stuff, and this is almost like I saw in baseball. There was a lot of talk about when Cal Raleigh hit however many home runs, they were tallying his playoff home runs. Whoa, we don't do that. You're not tallying playoff home runs. Why are we spanning 2 different seasons? And when we're talking calendar year, I don't like
because it makes my point, now? Joe.
Am I old? Am I officially old?
It makes my point, Joe.
That's old man yelling at Cal. There you go.
And now, Brandon, again, to be clear, I'm not. You're not. There's a lot of people that have made this point, and to say that how good Robertson has been, and I agree with that point of it. Robertson's been really good. He should be on this team, but I don't like the calendar year.
Can you name the other 2?
McKinnon.
Yeah.
And McDavid.
No. It's a player that you probably won't get. I was surprised by it too.
No, because that's going to bother me.
No, I have no idea.
Give me a hint.
Morgan Geekie.
That's right. I knew it was, and he's not in the tournament either.
No. David Pasternak was like, "We'll take him on our team. We'll give him Czechia citizenship, and get him on our team." No, Jacob, not Cody Ceci. You were being correct. Because there. I think the USA team can compete with anybody. We were right there when it came into the last part of the game. It seems like the USA is always right there, but I believe you guys are right. I think the biggest question mark is the availability of these top stars for Team USA, and how healthy are they going to be in about a month when this starts. So this team can compete with anybody. We'll see how it shakes down, and we don't know the alternates. Maybe these players aren't up to snuff, and Jason Robinson gets in, and this is all a moot point. But at that time, you're substituting a Kachuk or another player before Jason Robinson. So it's you're swapping. You're not getting the overall team better. You're not taking out a JT Miller or whatever. So we'll see.
Are you starting Hellebuck? Is that a no-brainer? Or is that? Yeah.
I mean, you have to start. I think you have to start there. Yeah. I mean, even though Winnipeg is playing like crap, I guess that's a question for both teams, for Canada and the United States. Do they play the incumbent even though their teams are playing horrible? I know Bennington's playing horrible. How's Hellebuck playing this year? Is he playing okay, or is it just?
Well, he was hurt for a while too.
Yeah, he did miss some time.
Is he back?
Yeah, he's back. I think he played today.
So
yeah, because they have Comrie starting tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, so that's another thing. That's another thing with Kings. Is it me, or are we starting to see some backup goalies again with with the Kings?
Don't be worried about that offensive firepower there, Joe.
Yeah. Like hint. Teams around the league It seems like we're seeing more backups than we've seen in recent years. I don't know.
Just
But
to
yeah,
kind of
Hellebuyck played today.
Yeah, just to wrap up the U.S. though, like I think you touched on it. Like I think the inclusions from this year compared to the Four Nations are what make me, I guess, happiest, because leaving Tage Thompson off the roster with the Four Nations was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Very happy they brought him this year. And then Clayton Keller, that's another guy who I love watching Clayton Keller, and I'm really glad he got an opportunity. I think he'll probably be among the 13th forward group. I don't really see him starting among some of these names. And then especially when you bring in like a Vincent Trocheck and whatever, they're going to play. Like Trocheck's playing. Like they brought him for a reason. So, but we'll see. Like I think the longer tournament, like you mentioned, Joe, too, like it's going to give you an opportunity to see like which players are really bringing it and have those legs throughout the tournament, and the goalies too, like which goalies can carry.
And they're going to play everybody. They're going to play everybody again, especially against these lower teams.
I mean, Italy's bringing a team, like Italy and France, and not to.
Of course, they're hosting.
Yeah. Is Velarde playing for Italy?
He should.
I don't know.
I can look that up. I can look that up real quick. Let me see.
While you're doing that, man, is it suck that, as Crosby's going to be, this will be his last Olympics, and, in comes Mackling, Celebrini, Bedard didn't even make the team. Schaefer didn't even make the team. Like, not to mention McDavid, McKinnon, Marner. Like, this is, come on, man.
That's the first one. Yeah.
God.
And I get the whole political aspect.
Italy has not officially posted a roster yet.
Okay, and I just to kind of touch on it. I get it's kind of a touchy subject, but I get the political side of it. But it's just disappointing we can't see Russia in this tournament. Like at least with those players specifically, because that would have been a fun team to kind of watch with some of the players that they might be able to ice. It's very disappointing that they kind of get punished for it. But I get it, so it is what it is.
I don't. So I don't.
You don't get it?
No, I don't get it, because it's not their fault that their leader is in war, and and they're the only team being punished. I mean, not to get too political, but you have Israel and Palestine both eligible for the Olympics, and they're in a war. Like, it doesn't make sense to me why these select players are being punished. It just is what it is. Politics ruins it, and you can't just watch the best players play the best players. I think Russia, especially Ovechkin, this is his last chance at Olympics.
Demidov, imagine Demidov on that team. He's having a nice season in freaking Montreal. That'd be a fun team.
Yeah.
Well, let's get back to
goalie group. Sorry, they probably have the best goalies among the teams.
Yeah.
All the Orokins.
Yeah. Askarov. Yeah, there's another one. Yeah.
Let's get back to some non-fun hockey in your LA Kings. We had
come on.
We had a trade that go down right after our last podcast, and I know it's old news, but we always want to touch on it a little bit. Danault going to Montreal for an early 2026 second. It's I think Columbus Blue Jackets second, and right now they're not doing too swell this season, so it'll be a top 10 pick in the second round as it stands right now. So I felt like good value for an older forward, but right now we're waiting for the next hammer to drop, because the Kings definitely need some center help if they're going to move forward in the playoffs. It's a type of move that the rebuilders, that everybody chanting for a rebuild, loves to see, because we got a high second round pick out of that. But we all know the Kings aren't done, and they're not going to throw in the towel. They're going to push in and most likely use that pick going forward. But what did you think about all the drama with Phil Danault and him saying that he felt like he wasn't being utilized to his extent, and all that kind of stuff that came out after the trade went down?
Yeah, I mean, part of me really appreciates everything that Phil Danault did for the Kings. Obviously, signing as a free agent to come play here, not very rare to see the last few years, a player wanting to sign long-term to play for the Kings, and was a great player in his stint here. But I mean, I can't help but think maybe parts of last season, and I guess it's hard to say that in the playoffs because he was really good in the playoffs, but parts of last season and this season specifically, like you could just see it. He was throwing in the towel and he did not want to be here. So I kind of get a little disappointed when I see that because I'd watch him at times this season. I'm thinking like this guy, like I saw it like firsthand. I'm like, he's not playing. He doesn't care. And obviously management thought the same because they were only giving him like 13 minutes a game. And like for him to say those comments of how he wasn't being utilized, like come on, dude. Like you kind of saw the writing on the wall here. Like, and it's not like, and to say you weren't being utilized, you were still getting power play time. And it's not like you were doing anything with it either. So, I mean, it's not like Hiller is the type of coach that's going to keep playing guys that are not thriving. Like, let's say you would have been playing well. Hiller's the type of coach that's going to give you the ice time if you're playing well. So, for him to kind of say those comments really rubbed me the wrong way. So, like, for me, I'm just kind of like, good riddance, to be honest with you. Like, bye. I'm glad he's gone.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I don't know what went wrong here. What seemed to be like such a good and important player for the Kings, all of a sudden to just be, border. I don't want to say useless, but like it just didn't go well this year, and it definitely seemed like there was some sort of fallout. Now, and obviously I have no idea why or what, but so. Like, I guess to the point where obviously he wanted out, so the Kings got him out, so fine. But maybe I'm in the minority here. I think this is a big L for the Kings. Organizationally, clearly something happened where the player of that importance got that sour. Somehow, I don't know how that happens, a veteran guy like that. But for a team that doesn't have a lot of good centers, he's been one of your better players in playoffs the last couple of seasons. He's been a pretty reliable guy. I understand the production was a literal zero this year, and that can't happen. But, like, join the club. Him and every other center on this team was struggling to put the puck in the net and create offense. But, like, this is what I see as a huge win for Montreal, and it's to be determined for LA. Because to your point, Randon, like they're not selling, so they're going to do something with that pick, presumably, or with they're going to backfill this roster spot somehow. I would imagine from the outside, it's not going to be from within. But here, you look at the injuries that they've got. Like you kind of wish you had a Phil Deneau. At least I do wish we had a Phil Deneau right now. Now, obviously, like I wish it was a Phil Deneau that we've seen the last couple of years with the Kings, not necessarily this iteration of Phil Deneau. But again, I go back to what happened there. Something, I don't know what that is, where the relationship fell off to where it got this bad. But I mean, I think that is a fantastic deal for Montreal, for a team that can slot him in as 3C. He doesn't need to score a ton in Montreal because they've got everybody else that can do work. They've got great defensemen. They've got exciting forwards. They've got a really fun top six group. So he can slot in on the third line, probably with Gallagher, and that's a really good third line. I think that really stabilizes a team like Montreal. I think it makes a ton of sense for them. There's a couple teams I think where almost any team you could see Phil Deneau going to and just stabilizing the third line. So I think it's a great fit for Montreal, and we just got to wait and see how the Kings kind of fill the spot. Right now they got a ton of guys out and injured. So we've got a lot of guys from Ontario and Los Angeles that'll be up for the weekend games or Friday, Saturday. So we'll see, I guess. But I don't look at this as any sort of success for the Kings in the slightest. I don't care that they got a second, fine, they got a second round pick, but you lost an NHL player on a team that isn't good enough to lose an NHL player, a center, no less. So, setting aside, I guess at the end of the day, he wanted out, so they got him out. But even Ken Holland said, we wanted a roster player in return. So that in and of itself is, again, it's kind of a fail because they didn't get what they wanted. They wanted a roster player. They wanted somebody to come in. There's the rumors about Jesperi Kotkaniemi. They wanted a roster player to fill that spot, and they did not get it. So until they fill it, it's at a minimum an incomplete on the grade. I don't look at this as a win for LA. I don't know how you could, other than getting out a guy that didn't want to be here. If that's enough, then I guess that's enough for you, but it's not for me.
In a vacuum, I think it's a W. I think it's more than fair value for a player who's not producing. The Kings need centermen because the lack of production by Byfield and yada yada. I think it is giving Turcotte more time on ice, which I'm a fan of. So in a vacuum, I think it's a good trade, but we all know that there's going to be another shoe to drop here.
Yeah,
we all suspect. A lot of people are saying Alex Tuck, which whoever's writing in Buffalo thinks we're giving up Brandt Clark for Alex Tuck. You need to lay off the whiskey. But like you have guys like Nazem Kadri in Calgary is a hot name for a center, and we'll see if the Kings are able to make something work. But in a vacuum, I think it's very fair value. And if for some reason this falls off the rails and the Kings become sellers, you have a good pick. And a high second is enough to get a quality third line guy somewhere else that wants to be here and is producing. So like, I feel like they can eventually move that around and they can be kind of patient when it comes to that and getting them, because they feel, especially with how weak the Pacific is, they probably feel like they can wait almost until the last minute of the trade deadline to get the best deal that they possibly can for 3C.
Yeah, I think this is it depends on how you look at it, right? Like, I mean, if you want this team to be sellers, then you're thinking it's a W. If you want this team to be a contender, then it's most likely an L. Like, I see both sides of the argument, like, but I'm kind of with Joe. It's just hard to evaluate it right now as a Kings fan. I mean, but I totally agree with what Randon's saying too, though. Like, it's good to see Alex Turcotte get the opportunities. He seems to be kind of thriving with it right now over the last few games, playing with Fiala and Kuzmenko. You want to see that continue, because then once Kopitar comes back, maybe you have something to kind of work with there moving forward. So I don't know. We'll see. I saw somebody mention Kadri. That's going to be expensive. I don't know if the Kings can afford expensive right now or should afford expensive. And then
if they know what for a second, what's Kadri going to get?
Yeah, exactly. And random LA fan says we need better defensemen more than we need better forwards. Like, which defensemen are they trading? Oh, the Kings trading. I mean, maybe Brian Dumoulin. I don't know. They just signed him to a contract, and he only played 10 minutes the other night. So
not their second leading point getter, and Joel Edmondson.
Yeah, and him either. So,
man. Coming up to the next topic here is one player that's really been turning it on, and we can't talk enough about him, is Brandt Clark. If you're looking at him coming into this season, he's leading the LA Kings defenseman in points. He is third. I didn't think that. Third in time on ice for LA Kings defenseman. Who would have thought that? His IPP is at 50%. Quite a bit of shots at 65. Shot percentage of 6%, and he's just doing a phenomenal job. And you look at when he was on the ice against the Sharks, I believe they were out shooting the Sharks 17-1. So he's doing a great job, and he's propping up Joel Edmondson for his best season, potentially his best season of all time. So Brandt Clark is doing a great job, and we are going to continue to talk about this kid because there's nothing bad you can say about him. And Russ, you made a tweet the other day, and you said all these offensive stats are great, but to watch Brandt Clark play defense and kind of extinguish all the doubters has been your highlight of his season so far.
Yeah, it kind of bit me in the ass a little bit because he got scored on like 2 minutes later. But I think, just overall this season, he's been tremendous. I think the offense was always going to be there, but I think his maturity, at least in the defensive end, has been just outstanding. And I think his one-on-one play, like I think last night? Yeah, last night. And it's not hard to beat this player, but he just was able to just throw Ryan Reeves off the puck and then be able to create a loose puck and turn it over in his own end. I mean, that just kind of shows his strength. And to be honest with you, I think his skating is just kind of, I don't want to say it's improved, but it's been so much better than maybe what a lot of us expected, to be honest with you. Like it's not that he's like a fast skater, but he just works his edges so well to be able to get out of dangerous situations or maneuver his way into open ice. And I think that's what's been able to help him so much more defensively too. But yeah, like it's just like right now the Kings defensive core, it's Brant Clark and whoever he's paired with thriving, and then the other two are just kind of in survival mode right now. That's it, because we saw it last night. It was like a lot of the highlights that we were talking about with Turcotte, Fiala, and Kuzmenko playing well. A lot of that was because Brant Clark was on the ice too, playing with them, making plays happen. So yeah. Brandon, we could talk about him all day, I'm sure, because there's really so many good things to talk about with Brant Clark.
Yeah, you look at just among defensemen, I'm looking at Natural Stat Trick that have played 600 minutes. Brant Clark is top 10 in shot attempt share. And just to give you an idea, like he's played largely with Joel Edmondson, just to give you an idea how good Brant Clark has been. In Corsi share, Brant Clark is 9th. Joel Edmondson is 45th. Brant Clark is 8th in the NHL among defensemen in shots on goal share. Edmondson is 50th. You look at expected goal share, Brant Clark is in the top 10. Joel Edmondson is 70th. So despite being partnered with Brant Clark, clearly there's one that's above the other. But what sticks out to me is Brant Clark is top 10 in all these categories. And it's just, he is really taking that next step this season. I totally agree with Russ. Like, he looks like a much more fluid skater this year than we've seen in the past. I was watching that Sharks game, and he was, and I cannot remember if it was Celebrini or who it was, but he was like matching, like stopping and starting and shadowing, just mirroring basically the opponent. I was like, this is a much more sharper, crisper Brant Clark with his skating in the D zone. He's at another level right now. And yeah, it is Brant Clark and then everybody else on this Kings D core. He stands well above everybody else right now. And at least we're starting to see, Jim Hiller give him some more time. I mean, I think it's still going into the Sharks game. I haven't looked since, but I think going into the Sharks game, he was getting the 4th minutes on a per game basis at 5-on-5. But still and again, this was going into the Sharks game, when leading by a goal, Brant Clark was still 6th in time on ice. Russell. he was still 6th. Now, in fairness, I will look, so I'll pass this over to you, Randon, and let you glow for a while on your boy. But I'll see if it's been different over the last 10, 25 games or so. But for the season, when leading by a goal, Brant Clark is still 6th in time on ice.
I mean, he should have made the Canadian roster over Doughty. He's playing a lot better hockey.
Snub.
Yeah. Snub right there. And, like you said, a lot of those teams bring players as the last roster spot, like that are young, that they expect to be on the team the next year to kind of let them wet their beak in that type of action. And who knows if Brant Clark will ever be a top eight defenseman for Canada in the league, which we all think he can be. At least I do. But yeah, like, this guy has done nothing but impress me. And outside of the home run or the pick that I took with Kempe when everybody was doubting me, I think a lot of people were on the Brant Clark train, and I think we're all excited that the train is going as fast as Jim Hiller will allow, but it's on the tracks and it's moving quite well.
So he is 4th in time on ice per game at 5-on-5 and at all strengths. When they're within 1, he drops to 5th in time on ice. Now, in fairness, within one. And this is what I was looking at before the other day, because it's like, okay, where does he rank? Is Hiller, trusting him to play these minutes, to protecting a lead? So when I looked at the time on ice per game for the LA Kings D-men when they were up by just 1 goal, that's where Brant Clark still kind of drops. He's still 6th. Now, it's not a significant amount of minutes on a per game basis, but he is still sixth on the ice in when they're up by a goal. Now, let me just see what let me just look at the last
He seems to be playing more in overtime, and he got a shootout opportunity the other day. So
he did, and it was a really nice goal, by the way. So let me just go since December 1st to see if this has changed at all with up one, if he's still sixth in time on ice or if they're starting to play him a bit more. Let's see here. Time on ice. Over the last 17 games, he is still sixth by like a decent amount. So Hiller's still reluctant, not willing to play him.
Joe just continually likes to crush my spirit.
Well, they do a good job holding leads, so you can see why. That they don't like.
I mean, it's just look at the game. Watch it just last night. I mean, it's perfect reason why you can't hold the lead because you have. And like maybe this is more Mikey Anderson because I feel like Mikey Anderson also has been having really struggling this year. He's been not good, and maybe some of that is Drew Doughty, some of it's him. But for him individually, he just has not been playing well. And like a lot of people wanted to bag on Warren Fogle for his defense against Celebrini in that game tying goal. Mm-hmm. It's kind of hard to defend Macklin Celebrini one-on-one in open ice, so I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. But when you had Mikey Anderson behind the net with the puck and no one around you, and his first decision was just kind of rim it around the boards to nobody instead of making a play, there's a reason why we're not holding leads late because that's what our defenders' main priority is to do when they have the puck. They can't think they're all of our defense, besides Brent Clark, their number one thought process is that specifically when the game is in the nitty gritty. It's just throw it around the boards and not think like, hey, maybe I can make a play here in open ice and then find an open man.
Yep. And look what a playmaking forward did, right? Turcotte got the puck around the blue line. He actually tilted his head up and saw Fiala run up, tape to tape, made some things work. Imagine that. Would you look at that, huh, Joe?
Yeah.
But I think the finishing topic is two of the guys that we expected to have rebound seasons and take a step forward into this season where Doughty and Byfield been struggling this year. Anybody want to speak on that before we close it out for tonight?
I mean, we kind of bagged on Byfield enough. I feel like it's just tough. He just is not playing well. I mean, like I get it, like he's getting deployed in defensive situations, but even then, like when you play 19, 20 plus minutes a night and you're not producing like he should, you can only talk so much about defense. So I don't know with Byfield, and then with Doughty, yeah, man, the last two games specifically, like they've been so bad, and it's funny because last game I like it really stuck out to me. Like he had those two penalties, and then at the start of the third period, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but at the start of the third period, I think Hiller actually skipped him for a shift and put Brant Clark back out there to kind of skip him, and that was the first time I can remember that happening to Doughty in a long time. So, which rightfully so, like he deserved it because of the way he'd been playing and some of the decisions he's been making. Because, I mean, that D pair has just been awful in my opinion. I don't know what the numbers say, Joe, but like from the eye test, they just have not been good.
They both have less points than Cody Ceci this year at 5-on-5. So pretty bad.
Yeah, it's tough. And Byfield too, like of the two, Randon, like we were all bullish, and I don't know, I won't speak for you guys, but maybe it was a little hopeful that like, you know, Doughty had the full off season, you know, but at the end of the day, like he's getting up there. So maybe it's a little unfair to expect Doughty to get back to he was pre-injury. That's a big injury. He came back early. He grinded through the end of the season. So I think we're all hopeful, but it just hasn't really taken off. I'm not nearly as disappointed about that as I am with Byfield's performance. I mean, you look at his on ice numbers, he's sub 50 in expected goals and Corsi. Now, as Russ said, he's getting some tough minutes. But he ain't the only young center getting tough minutes. And unfortunately, that's just the spot that he's in. Kopitar obviously right now is hurt. And at some point, he's got to get out there and play. He's got to be the guy that you have against other teams' better players, and he's got to be able to do both. And right now, he's not. There's some, I don't know. I look at Hockey Viz, and like his expected goals with Byfield is definitely good. Like the Kings are better with him on the ice in terms of chance generations and things like that. It's not exactly translating, but again, I just kind of go back to it. I feel like it's hard to truly evaluate somebody like a Byfield or some of these other skilled forwards in the way LA plays. You just look at on Hockey Viz, their heat map. I mean, all the shots come from the point and the crease because they just look for a shot and a rebound. There's nothing from the slot. They don't even try.
Well, Byfield doesn't shoot regardless, so it doesn't matter what his heat map.
Yeah, that's true. Like he's not he's not a much of a shooter, and I don't know. Like I guess he could shoot more, but I don't think he's a shoot first player. Like I think he's a playmaking center first and foremost. That said, what's he got? 6 goals. How many goals does he have for us? 6?
6, I think, yeah.
And it's got to be more than that. It's just got to be more than that. If you have 6 goals, you better be doing like Joe Thornton, and you better have like 40 assists at this point to go along with it. And that ain't what's happening. So, but how much of that, and now this may sound like making excuses, but we've seen this time and time again. He's not the only skilled offensive player that's not putting up numbers. When you look at Kempe, you look at Fiala, you look at Kuzmenko. It's none of these guys are putting up seasons that we would have wanted or expected. And how much of that is their system and their structure, or maybe, boy, here's a light bulb that goes off. Maybe it's the defenseman. That they can't generate offense. They can't create offense because of their defensemen. And maybe one day this organization will figure out that you actually have to have defensemen that can be capable with the puck in order to score goals. Maybe.
We'll see. Just like we'll see you guys next week when we come back here for Hockey Royalty. Thank you guys for coming in tonight, our first episode in a while. We appreciate all our fans for hanging on through the holidays while we're getting in here. Appreciate you, Joe and Russell. Everybody can read all of our articles here at hockeyroyalty.com. Please follow Kyle Garcia for all your Reign news on Twitter and X. This Kings team is going to be trying to make some moves here at the deadline. We'll see how deep they go, but we're excited for the Olympics. We're excited for some hockey down the stretch. We'll see what moves here. And as always, Hockey Royalty will be covering your guys' Kings knowledge going down the stretch. Thank you guys for listening to us. And as always on this podcast, go Kings go.